Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in session 2, dedicated to infrastructure and services connectivity. I invite the keynote speaker for his keynote speech.
Hello. You forgot my name. My name is Kujtim Tali. I'm the founder of the company called 3CIS out of Kosovo. And I have a short presentation, and we can talk about after we're done. We have a panel to discuss the outcome of the whole thing. When I started working on presentation, it was a little bit hard. It's hard to figure out how the 5G is going to help Western Balkan countries, correct? So, but let's see how it came up and how can that help economy and prosperity of the region. Whoa. It's pretty big. So 3G transformation. So how the 5G is really affecting life, not only in Kosovo or in the region or anywhere else, correct? I tried to work on few items which could really relate it to the region itself. So it's not going to be talking about self-driving cars, because self-driving car is still a bit way to come to the region, but the focus is on the safer roads, smart agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, speed and efficiency, and economic impact. So 5G definition, I believe everybody knows, is fifth generation of the mobility. Mobile networks. Safer roads, basically, it's pretty old topic. Everybody's using it. Basically, safer roads. If you get some, I was trying to pull some information on the roads in Europe, and as you can see, road accidents are the leading cause of death for children and young adults aged 5 to 29 in Europe. So I'm assuming that reflects here in the region. I couldn't find the exact numbers here for the region, but this reflects. So how would 5G really helps on that direction? I mean, again, we go back and we can talk about self-driving cars, because again, when the whole 5G started, if you guys remember, everybody was talking about self-driving cars, because why self-driving cars? There's so much information exchange in such a short time. So self-driving cars, it fit pretty nice on the whole 5G architecture. But here right now, maybe we can use it on some kind of traffic lights, some kind of traffic patterns. Maybe we can combine it with the artificial intelligence. Somebody take the data, does calculation on the edge of the network, and then come up with some kind of pattern. Maybe the light can change. Light, maybe we keep the light red more than usual. It depends on the traffic patterns. So this is probably, we can see how that can maybe affect the accident. Also, maybe, we see car driving in the wrong direction. Maybe we can catch that too. We can alarm pretty quickly what's incoming traffic or I was reading an article few weeks ago when somebody developed all the technology because people keep going in the wrong direction on the highways. So they can catch it up, and then they can alert other drivers. So this is one of the means, this is one of the applications when we can apply the 5G, because again, why is 5G? Correct? It's speed. It's lots of data being processed on the edge, not on the central location. So we gain on speed, and we gain on processing power. So there are many examples around the world, we can go and look at how the whole thing it helped in traffic. But again, let's go to the next application. Basically, we talked about agriculture. So agriculture is pretty big everywhere, but especially on this region. I mean, I remember when I was growing up, agriculture was one of the main things here in Kosovo and in the region. But right now, only Serbia seems like to have the self-sustained agriculture process. So everyone else is falling behind. So maybe 5G can help them to pick up an agricultural side. So how would 5G help them? So basically we can monitor the soil, we can monitor is it proper time to do the harvesting, proper time to do whatever is done in agriculture. So instead having people going and doing that measurements can be taken automatically and different intervals. The other thing, maybe we can automate the whole process in harvesting, whole process of any of the whatever our agriculture needs. So I have some numbers here. So you can see the trade deficit for the region, except for Serbia, of course. You're looking at 1.1 billion. So this can help a lot as a 5G. So now, so as I said, we can support 5G, can support automation. Labor-intensive tasks can be automated based on whatever information is coming from the field, and all automated. Again, edge computing and artificial intelligence to go with it. Tourism. Next topic, tourism, correct. Based on World Bank information that I was able to pull, in 2019, the region, six countries region had 13 million visitors. Out of that, Albania itself had 6.5 million. So majority of the tourism happened in Albania. So, and then Montenegro had some, Serbia had some. Unfortunately, Kosovo, I didn't have any number for Kosovo. They weren't listed on that report. So now, how could 5G benefit tourism, correct? We all traveled somewhere, correct? Especially if you travel in more advanced countries, you get bombarded by the information. You open up a web, you try to look at for some kind of tourist attraction. Suddenly, you get bombarded from many sources telling you, you can get this tour, you can get this thing, or you can get that thing. So that can help bring in revenues to the country, to the region, actually. But by the way, tourism is supposed to grow by 50% on year 2025. So that was how it was predicted. So it could be huge impact on the whole process of tourism. The other place that we can apply again 5G, it's they're all well known, correct? Social sharing, correct? I traveled extensively in the region, and from my own experience, Albania has the best network right now. And I'm not talking about 5G, correct? I'm talking about 4G. You go to Albania, I think I get the best reception. So for majority of people, younger generation especially, the social media is must, correct? So that it attracts more people visiting, more people traveling, more people doing things. 5G and smart airports. I have this, but smart airports again. It's. I don't think so. The region has any of the big airports, but again, if you have smart airports, again, it will attract people somehow. Cultural experience, correct? As I said, once you're looking for some kind of church, or you're looking for some kind of castle, or whatever you're looking at, if you have a speed, if you have a data available, if you have the edge computing, you'll get bombarded with the information, where to go, what to do. The lure of connected cities, correct? It's again, same thing. So how you market it outside. You can tell people we have the latest and greatest. Back 15 years ago, actually, I see Luli here and I see Agim here. We were looking at somehow to maybe put, because Kosovo is like 100 kilometers with 100 kilometers. I'm talking about Kosovo now, we're not talking about the region, correct? Kosovo could be, even then we thought the Kosovo could be like sample of the telecommunication. I mean, we can build something to be sample for anybody outside of the, to come and see it, because again, it's so easy to build it. It's such a small country, and if you look at, they have mountains, but and then it's pretty rough mountain. It's not like people live there. So at the time, I think we were working with Bimax, and Julie is here, Agim is here. We had all those ideas. It never happened. Maybe now with 5G, somebody can go and take it to the next level. Could be huge help for the country. I mean, the country could become a sample of the telecommunication if we just need a little bit more focus and will to do it. So, and then we can implement all this. Manufacturing is another aspect of the 5G technology, correct? I read an article, it's about Croatia. They have a factory, an automotive industry. They automated the whole thing. And the automation happened using private 5G networks. Why is 5G again? We're going back, correct? 5G again, it's speed, bandwidth, and it is edge computing. So everything happens. Again, when you do that, you know, anything you automate, especially in factories, correct? You need all that information to be processed on a very short time and the proper process right. I mean, you may impact people, you may impact technology or production, all the stuff. So you really need to have very reliable network. And this is gaining momentum right now, and automation. Again, it's working better than Wi-Fi, any Wi-Fi, basically, if it's implemented right. So, downtime, you know, great impediments, you know, it's all written here. But that's so automation is another big thing which 5G can help the region. So, I was trying to find any information. I couldn't find that anybody is using it right now in the region. As I said, the closest I was able to find was in Croatia. A little bit on 5G evolution, correct? So we have industry 1.0, correct? Industrial Revolution 1.0, 2.0. 3.0 with automation, correct? Now we have 4.0. So it's hard to see the whole. So Industry 4.0 and IoT have brought about the smart factory in highly digitalized and connected environment where robots, machines, and devices are able to self-heal and run operation autonomously, correct? Let's go back to the Industry 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Look at the 4, where it gets us. So it's all about automation, all about speed, all about calculation. So one of the main benefits of the smart factories, correct, is ability to automate repetitive, labor-intensive, and potential danger tasks. So again, it's all about all right. So let's look at the evolution of the whole. Again, now we're going back to the mobile telephony, correct? Mobility, correct? 1980s, 1G, 1990s. Correct? GSM, Edge. What was the speed on 1990s on 2G? Anybody? What was the maximum speed on the 2Gs? it was multiplier of 64K kilobits per second, correct? Why 64 kilobits per second? Because they use DS zeros, they use DS ones, correct? So 64 kilobit. Somebody would bundle two DS zeros would be 128 kilobits. I seen like usually it was on four DS zeros, so 256 kilobits. So very limited, correct? I remember when I got my first smartphone, it was BlackBerry. So I was doing lots of travel all the time in South America. It was revolutionary because, I go to airport, I turn it on, and of course, I get emails. That's it. But it was huge help, especially for people who travel. 2000. I was lucky to be part of the evolution of the, being directly involved on the 3G part of it. I was lucky to be involved with, early on with AT&T on designing the AT&T network at the time. I'm talking about 3G, correct? So huge difference between 2G and 3G. What was the biggest difference? Again, it's speed. It's hard to see it for you guys. So, first generation, no data. Second generation, it's up to 100 kilobits, correct? But 100 kilobits, again, it's multiple 64 kilobits because it was all based on DS0. Third generation, up to 42 megabits. Now we came to 4G, correct? Fourth generation of the networks. The fourth generation of networks went up to 10 gig. The fourth generation was up to 300 megabit per second. So because fifth generation is 10 gig. And then we have the 5G, which goes up to 10 gig. So now, when you compare 4G and 5G, it's not only about the speed, correct? Because any of the first four generations that were based on central processing, correct? You would have antenna, you would have your phone, antenna talking to phone, all that information was processed on central office. Central office would make some decision, and we send it back to you. On 5G, different. 5G, everything happens on the edge. Instead going to central location, everything we try to do to process on the edge. So that's how we gain speed. So speed of processing things. It's not only speed of moving information. It's not only about the bandwidth and all the stuff, but you gain speed based on making calculation on the edge. And again, the speed on 5G goes, potentially supposed to go up to 10 gigabit per second. Okay, where's the region right now? Okay, and again, my own research. So far I found just Northern Macedonia has awarded the radio frequencies for the Makedonski Telecom, I guess. So they awarded 700 megahertz and then 3.6 gigahertz radio bands. So not sure how much they built, but at least they have the frequencies. Now they can start building it. Here underneath, you cannot see it. Basically, 700 megahertz, it's far-reaching frequency, correct? But doesn't have enough bandwidth. Goes up to 200 meg. And then you go to 3 gig. It's less reaching frequency, but it's more powerful to send data. And then you have the subnet of high band 24 gigahertz. That was supposed to get you to 2 gig. So again, if you look at the Macedonian, they have right now awarded 3.6 and 700. So they're still doing something. The rest, I saw Montenegro has built something. I saw Kosovo has built something, some regional network. I think Kosovo has one in Prešeren. Am I right again? It's Prizren has something. It's not active yet. I saw the Podgorica has something for the city of Podgorica on 5G, but nothing nothing on which user like me and you and I can use it. So still way. All right. I'm sorry. That's information what I found. So I mean, I'm not saying that nobody has anything, but I cannot use it. Correct? My phone is 5G. I cannot use it. So that's the point. Still, I mean, it's not about. It's about. I'm assuming it's about regulatory things. It's not about people not willing to do it. Here's a chart how the rest of the world is doing. It started in 2019, pretty much deployment, 2020, 21. Do you guys see the charts? So if you can see, as you can see, North America is taking over basically in 2022. Used to be Asia Pacific was leading the whole thing in the beginning, but slowly the U.S. is taking over. So and look at the predictions. Right now, Europe is like third one. And I'm not talking about the region, correct? I'm talking about Europe. So it's way to go for everybody. Okay, I didn't say that, Clark is said. Arthur Clark. That's it?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kujtim Tali, for your speech. Now I invite the moderator, Mark Tasic, and the panelists, Eric Murell, Nives Sandri, Rok Prešeren, and Vlora Rexhepi.
5G and also for cutting-edge infrastructure in the region. I think it was really a very good, amazing overview about these things and the newest development here in the region. So my name is Mark Vasić, coming from Deutsche Telekom, responsible there for regulatory topics here in Southeastern Europe and Central Eastern Europe, based in Germany. So, but it's amazing to have really senior executives from different kind of the industry here on the panel, and it's really an honor for me to be here on the summit as well as with these very great guys. We will start first with a short introduction, then we will discuss a little bit what does it mean, what does it mean cutting edge infrastructure, what are the trends, and what are also the needs of the industry, of the people there. And as we know that in this audience are now a lot of policymakers from the region, so we will for sure talk about the challenges coming for politicians or our request from the industry to the policymakers. I completely lost the feeling for the time because we are a little bit late. But nevertheless, we try to have 1 hour to discuss with you, and I will promise to you it will really an amazing discussion. So therefore, stay here, stay tuned, and we will give you some very great things. One point before we are starting with the introduction is thank you for Rok. Thank you for the colleagues from IPCO and Telekom Slovenia to really realize this panel. Without their contribution, it would be not possible to have really some very good experts from abroad here. So therefore, yeah, thank you guys, and let's get started. First, let's start with a short introduction round, and let's ask Vlora to be the first, because I can tell you, Vlora is working on some magic stuff. She's working on Hyperloop. And you know, we discussed about what's Hyperloop depending to digitization. Later we will discuss this, but first of all, please give us a short info. What are you doing?
Thank you, Mark. I guess you can all hear me. Thank you, Mark, for this amazing introduction, and thank you to the host for inviting me here and for the opportunity to talk about Hyperloop as well. So my name is Vlora Rexhepi. I am head of standardization at Hard Hyperloop. Hard Hyperloop is a company, a relatively young company of 5 years old. So we consider ourselves a scale-up. My background is actually in telecommunications, and I have been involved, as you have seen, the development of different Gs, as Kujtim very nicely presented. So I was involved as part of Nokia and Ericsson from the 2G when the EGPRS started up to the 4G. But recently, since 2.5 years, I'm now working on Hyperloop and using my experience and knowledge from the telecom standardization to create a regulatory framework for Hyperloop, but also to develop European standards. I can just explain a little bit what Hyperloop is, because it might be that it is a completely new concept for some of you, and some of you may know it. Actually, you may know it from Elon Musk, because he has, let's say, pitched to the world this idea of a sustainable transport mode of the future for transporting passengers and cargo. It resembles, let's say, railways. But the vehicles itself resemble the pressurized cabin, so an aircraft. And what does this, how does this system works? It relies on magnetic forces for guidance, propulsion. It is in a system, it's a system of tubes, basically. So the vehicles are guided within steel tubes, which are having a diameter about roughly 3.5 meters. And this enclosure is in a low pressure environment, so nearly vacuum. And why is this needed? Is because, you know, the air resistance increases with speed, and the higher the speeds, the more air resistance and the more energy you need to put the vehicles forward. But if you are having no air resistance within the tube, you can achieve amazingly high speeds with very low energy consumption. So like this, we are able to actually reach cruising speeds of 700 kilometers or more with very low energy consumption. So it's a very sustainable transport system. And the idea of this high speed is, of course, very appealing, as it has been always in the past. But what does it mean in practice? It would mean that, for example, a trip from Amsterdam to Paris would only be 30 minutes. Well, I'll stop here.
Sorry, just to add. It's all automated, correct?
It is, yes, thank you. An additional point, it is a driverless operations, fully automated. So we rely heavily on digital infrastructure. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Vlora. One of your former companies, or you were part of the Nokia, and so then let's use it as a perfect opportunity to ask Nives to present herself.
Hello to everybody. I'm really happy and grateful that I'm here. I am actually welcome Western Balkans Summit already old guest, because I'm present from a first one in Skopje and really continuing coming because I see this as very important platform to somehow share experience and to give ideas and to exchange ideas around the region, Western Balkan and furthermore. My name is Nives Sandri. I'm coming from Nokia. I'm actually very long in Nokia, changing several positions and working as well a lot with operators who are definitely based for digitalization. Currently, more and more I'm engaged with enterprises with operators or without operators. Why? Because exactly 5G and what will come after 5G, what I will mention later, is definitely oriented or designed to help the business. And this is actually important, what also we saw in your presentation before and in discussions in a previous panel. There are technologies existing and we need to use technologies. Nokia is actually partner, one of the rare European vendor companies who are talking about digitalization a lot, about next steps, what I will also mention later. We are end-to-end vendor providing from base station and fixed connections towards core and edge routing and being in all this area very present. This is everything from my side.
Thank you, Nives. And let's now leave a little bit the telco sector, or perhaps not leaving the telco sector, but let's broaden a little bit the scope and let's ask Eric to introduce yourself. Wait.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Eric Murell, and I'm with the Open Networking Foundation. We are a nonprofit open source consortium headquartered in Menlo Park, California. For those of you who are not aware of that, that's in Silicon Valley, where lots of innovation in the U.S. takes place. First, I want to thank those who are responsible for inviting me here. It's my great pleasure to make my very first trip here to Kosovo to visit with you all fine people. At ONF, we are responsible for using software-defined networking constructs to foster democratization of networking components. We focus on the networking industry, where we build platforms that are useful for telecom operators to consume in their networks. Today, we have platforms in the broadband space and also in the wireless space. We are driven by large telecoms operators, the likes of Deutsche Telekom, AT&T, China Mobile, China Unicom, and other large telecom operators throughout the globe. I'm primarily responsible for making sure that we have a well-rounded ecosystem of not just operators, but system integrators and vendors to participate in our ecosystem, so that as the operators that work with us drive us by providing us with specifications of capabilities they'd like to see us incubate, we have a well-aligned set of vendors that can codify these software that we develop into their own proprietary hardware, such that they are ready to be consumed by the operators with the aid of system integrators. I'd like to also let you know that there is a Kosovo company that's a proud member of our ecosystem. Some representatives of them are here at Next Generation Networks. If you're not familiar with them, I encourage you to seek them out, because they will be going forward one of the 5G experts here in Kosovo. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you, Eric, that we will have you here, because, you know, you told me it was for you a 24 or 5 hours journey to Pristina, so therefore thank you for that, and that's for this panel. That's, wow, an amazing effort. Thank you. So let's go a little bit back to the telco business, telco core business, and let's ask Rok for his introduction.
Thanks, Mark. I'm coming from Telekom Slovenia, a leading telco operator in Slovenia. So I'm responsible for the technical section of the company, which basically means a network part, telco part, and the services. So to put it a little bit in perspective, so currently the two hot topics for me are building the 5G network, that's one thing. The other thing is basically streamlining and building the cybersecurity operations center. So we are running an operation that is, I think, the biggest, or one of the biggest in the region, serving a lot of business-to-business, primarily business-to-business customers with our cybersecurity services. That's what we are offering. That's in short. In Kosovo, we are present here. We own the IPCO, so the telco operator here, the second one, and glad to be here.
Great, Great to have you here. Not 24 hours, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps you made it in 24 hours to travel to Pristina, but from Ljubljana, I think it's a little bit less, hopefully. So then let's get started and let's discuss a little bit more about why is cutting-edge infrastructure so important for us. We know we had this keynote of Kujtim with a lot of good use cases, but let's ask our experts, and let's first start with Eric. Which are the most important trends you're seeing on the horizon and for the industry?
So, from my perspective, when you think about 5G, it's not so much 5G in the public arena as it will be important for 5G in enterprise. I think 5G in the enterprise space will account for the majority of the business in the next 2 to 3 years. And it's all driven by higher order use cases. These use cases manifest themselves in like smart retail, healthcare as an example, and it requires new thinking from an architectural perspective. This thinking has to shift away from pure cloud native to a hybrid of cloud and edge. You have to have those hybrids because edge is responsible for compute, which will enable use cases to be facilitated in virtual reality, as an example, artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality. Without the very low latency and additional performance metrics that edge computing provides you, you cannot support fully all of the use cases that 5G envisions. And so that hybrid architecture is going to be important going forward so that the performance potential can fully be realized with 5G. I'm one of these proponents of making sure that you use the right hammer for the right nail, so to speak. So what I mean by that is I'm very pleased to hear that here in Kosovo you have broadband ubiquitously deployed from a fiber optic perspective. That's amazing. And all static broadband connections should be taking advantage of that. However, when you're thinking about nomadic IoT or other kinds of connectivity options, you should be really thinking about mobility. And private 5G is a very good foundation for that to take place. And so I really think that it's important to make sure that not just having 5G for 5G's sake, but having it architected appropriately so that you can fully realize the performance potential that it provides over 4G. Let me give you a couple of statistics, if I may. From a speed perspective, you're going from tens to hundreds of megabits to gigabits of throughput. Now, in the U.S., I have a 5G phone and I have an operator that has 5G and it's been deployed in an overlay fashion. I get when I do speed tests with my phone, I get moderate increase in speed, no drop in latency. What that means is they haven't been able to provide me with the ability to fully realize the potential that exists. So in order to do that, like I said, it requires the right architecture. But you have to get the throughput up. Latency will go from 10 to 20 milliseconds all the way down to 1 millisecond. Here again, it requires the right architecture to fully realize it. Then you go from number of connected devices from 10 to hundreds of devices to thousands and 10,000s of devices per radio. These are the kinds of performance promises that 5G makes, but again, it requires the right architecture to fully realize it. And at ONF, we're developing the kinds of constructs and architecture that enables this to take place. So we have a 5G core that's fully compliant with 3GPP specifications. In the UPF, that's a user plane function, we have 3 different ones. And from a private 5G perspective, we have one that's hardware-based and 2 that are software-based. The hardware-based UPF runs on a P4 switch, and that enables you to reach all of the performance potential that 5G promises relative to 4G. So it's important that we stay aligned with the latest in thinking in terms of what we're doing from a development perspective in order to get all the way there. It's not good to just say, oh, I've got 5G and it's coming, or in some cases it's here. Has it been done right so that you can realize all the performance potential that it promises?
Thank you, Eric. So therefore, I have learned now also that private 5G is also key and could be also driver for innovation. Absolutely. And also for the implementation of innovative services and products, whatever. So then, thank you. Let's ask again, Vlora. Vlora, I didn't get it really. So Hyperloop in digital things, digital infrastructure. Tell us a little bit, what is the interplay? How important is really digital infrastructure for,
Yes, thank you. Yeah, so as Kujtim really reminded me to tell you all, Hyperloop is digital from start, so it relies on a fully automated operation, and this means that the exchange of data needs to happen between all parts of the entire infrastructure, but also between the infrastructure and the vehicle in controlling the magnetic forces, because that's important, but in controlling also the operations, meaning, let's say, how do you guide the vehicles, which lane to take. This is all a set of data that needs to be exchanged, and it needs to rely on a very, let's say, robust digital infrastructure. In terms of communications, this requires very low latencies and high reliability, something that 5G promises also to do. But also in terms of public adoption, because we are building a whole new transport mode, we rely a lot on augmented reality to provide the users with the experience. How does it feel when you travel in a Hyperloop at such high speeds? And we gain a lot of knowledge from our future passengers in what they would like to see, how does it feel to travel in such an environment. But coming back to the communications, it's actually, the 5G is being designed with a lot of use cases in mind, and tremendous work is being done there, excellent work as well. However, if you look at it, 5G for Hyperloop, there is a limitation of 5G, even though it's a cutting-edge infrastructure, because the 5G is designed for, let's say, travel speeds, not data rates, but the travel speeds of 500 kilometers, roughly 500 kilometers an hour. But in terms of Hyperloop, we are going to travel at 700 kilometers per hour speeds, which means that the handovers will immediately be a problem. So how do you then accommodate this? And that's maybe a good opportunity here to actually call for the 5G community to look into Hyperloop and have a use case, have it used, being a use case for having this, as Eric said, the network architecture that will cater for speeds of 700 kilometers and more.
Thank you, Vlora. So my understanding is now that you already now invited all the industry of the telco operators to have a real look on Hyperloop and think about how we can push the things forward. Later on, also Nives will tell us a little bit more about the technology trends. But first of all, let me refer to one point to our keynote speaker, Kujtim. One point. You gave us a very great overview, and we discussed also Hyperloop and other things now. Do we have to, if we are talking about this region, do we have to invent these use cases and the infrastructure 6 times, or is there something like a regional thing? And let's challenge a little bit the policymakers here. Or do we have also to broaden our scope to have cross-border activities, you know, generating scales? And what's your view on it?
Yeah, of course, you know, if you can implement something regional, it's going to make things much easier, correct? You don't have to, as you said, reinvent the same thing 6 times. So, from my point of view, if you can achieve mobility as a step 1, just to have like full mobility. When I'm saying full mobility, that I can move around and get my data follow me. I mean, that could, you know, really so easily to apply to all what we had on the board earlier, correct? So we can start from that. Let's have full mobility across the region. Let's move. You know, I pass the borders. I don't have to reset my phone. I go to Albania. You know, it's different operator comes up. Maybe, again, different operator comes up, but maybe we can create something seamlessly hand over just going through the borders. I mean, we already have that issue going from one antenna to antenna here in Kosovo, and then everything drops. Forget going through the border. Maybe that's a good step to start just having full mobility across the whole region, and then build from that.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Kujtim. Let's talk a little bit more about latest development on net level, on technology side. And let's ask Nives. Nives, I just learned we need 6G. We have to implement for sure 5G, but we have to think about 6G to enable it for hyperlooping. There is one question how we can build up the antennas, but I'm not a technology guy, but you can explain. And I have learned also about a discussion of Open RAN and such things. Tell us, what are the things on the horizon from your perspective?
Thank you, Mark. I'm very excited to talk about new technologies. And when I met actually Vlora, this is exactly something what probably 5G will not be good enough, but let's then see what 6G is bringing. Before this, I would just to reflect in a discussion about 5G and mobility. Definitely, when we are talking about mobility, then of course traveling, walking, running is important. Mobility is important, but when we talk about mobility, is also important in an enterprise sector. We saw cases for manufacture, 5G implementation manufacture in automotive as well. And let me come to manufacture back. Mobility in factories is also extremely important topic. I mean, you are much more flexible, you are much more able to change your line, depends on needs of your product, because if you would like to be competitive on the market, then this is one of the really problems currently factories has. Also mentioning that in Croatia are some automated factories. Yes, Nokia is a company focusing a lot in this sector. There are some, but there are also many who are having a still time to grow and to change and transform in Croatia. Probably you heard already there is a big bunch of money available from European Union currently for a transition and modernization, digitalization of different type of verticals, and manufacturing is one of. And it is really time that Croatian factories, entrepreneurs are grabbing this money and do exactly private wireless, because 5G can bring benefits definitely via private wireless, having a small campus, and in this campus do all what is possible digital. And with 5G this is possible because latency with the edge computing is really amazing, and is exactly this what you need to navigate robots and do other use cases in a factory. Also would like to underline here that we are active in Kosovo, in Pristina, as Nokia with UBT University. There we implemented campus network, where we would like, together with the students and with the entrepreneurs, to test different use cases, because technology is there, but to use technology you need to have a right use case and you need to have a right ecosystem. Ecosystem means that different stakeholders are cooperating and cooperating a lot, otherwise technology is not used. Arena 2036 is one place in Stuttgart in Germany where lots of companies are engaged, Nokia as well. We are providing, let's say, one niche area. This is connectivity, but very important, because if you would like to do all these use cases in different industries, different verticals, you need to have connectivity, which is excellent to support these use cases expected. Therefore, why I'm mentioning this arena, because if we would like to use technology, then working as a team, working in an ecosystem is extremely important. Otherwise, we technicians would put technology there and nobody actually would use. And yesterday, listening Hannah from Start Labs and listening many entrepreneurs coming from Pristina, there is a huge opportunity and also there is a huge initiatives from startups point of view to use it. Thank you for giving me opportunity to reflect, but I will now come back. Mark, I'm not done. I will come back to also two topics we are talking a lot. One is ORAN. ORAN is architecture of RAN, radio access network, meaning from antenna to the core. Important is to say that as vendors, we were talking about this a lot, because of course to go from the comfort zone and providing our equipment is not easy one. But based on a big initiative of operators, where Deutsche Telekom is one of, but not only, there is the ORAN Alliance, and this ORAN Alliance is actually opening this RAN. What does it mean? It means to enable different interfaces, open interfaces for radio network. This provides benefits, this provides risks, which should be also handled properly. But Nokia recognized in the right moment that actually no way back is existing, and openness was always bringing next step. Therefore, Nokia was pretty active and supportive in ORAN, and we are depending on an operator actually trying to fulfill the requirements. Important is as well to say that ORAN will not directly give a benefit to end customers, but indirectly, yes. Why? Because there will be definitely different vendors coming with different solutions, and of course, when you have smaller pieces, then experts in smaller pieces are coming to the table. Then time to market is also important, because operators are always fighting who will be first. This will be one of the topics which will bring them to be faster on market, and which is always hurting us as a vendors, but on the other side, with the right approach, you can handle this. This is operators will definitely achieve decreased TCO, and with this decreased TCO, I do believe they will invest also in different parts of the network, and in 5G, I mean, they need to invest a lot to provide a level needed. Therefore, this is about Open RAN, and currently Open RAN is for us vendors new technology, currently in testing phase, and first contracts should be signed even end of this year, and this will give, let's say, new additional type of approach by operators. Coming to the 6G, really exciting. I mean, it was mentioned many times today, 5G is important. I will only try to come from the beginning. Big pipe, latency is extremely important. Without latency, this is not 5G. Then handling of a really big number of devices, because if you see how many in factory you would have different devices to connect, sensors, different machines having them, then you will come to the billions. And these should be handled. This you cannot handle so easy. Everything should be, as already mentioned, automated, because human being cannot handle this by itself without really algorithms. Therefore, artificial intelligence is here playing a role. 6G should increase in these areas a lot, should additionally be definitely sustainability cautious, and this is very important because you see what is going on with climate. Sustainability and being green is one of the very important topic for all us vendors. I mean, our 5G already equipment and 6G will be definitely green and will take care about CO2 emission and all these important KPIs, because we all would like to be here saved many hundreds of years, and we need to think about our kids, of course. Then what is also very important is digital inclusion. 6G is bringing, meaning that really digital will become a human right for everybody. Why I'm saying this? Because many use cases of 6G will come to this that everybody of us will have an easier life because of being able to handle many information from our body as well, and from our environments as well, and giving us easier, let's say, future and with more quality. There are many discussions about this, of course, because artificial intelligence, where is the end of this? There is a lot of discussions about being chipped around whatever type of chips. But this is all done with the idea of having a better and safe and longer life, of course. And very important is that 6G then will definitely take care about security, privacy, and technology definitely should bring trust. This is now on those who are working on 6G to make it really like this, otherwise we will not have a usage. And just to give you that also information, Nokia is one of the leaders in 6G. Time-wise, this will not be coming to us before 2030. 2030 should be somehow start of commercial use. Until then, lots of testing, lots of concepts will be and studies will be done, and first 3GPP specification should be available beginning of 29, at least from our point of view.
Thank you, Nives. So that means when we are the next time here in Pristina with this digital summit, regional digital summit of the Western Balkan countries, we then also follow on this discussion about how to implement then more concrete about 6G. So Eric, there was an intervention from you.
Yes, I just want to make a quick comment about O-RAN and O-RAN technology, as Nives talked about. So Nokia is a proud member of the O-RAN Alliance, but so is Open Networking Foundation. Nokia, of the large vendors, there's Nokia, Ericsson, Huawei, ZTE, Samsung. They are the only one that is fully committed to support the O-RAN specifications with the disaggregated product. That's important because while there are risks associated with disaggregation, there's a significant opportunity. The opportunity is for a smaller vendor, maybe a potential startup here in Kosovo, to take one of the elements of a disaggregated RAN and focus development there for inclusion in operators' networks. That's a great opportunity I think you should all consider. When you think about how the RAN has been broken out, it's a radio unit, central unit, distributed unit, a near real-time RIC platform, and XApps running on top. Those XApps manifest themselves in 3 different categories: radio resource management, policy, and self-organizing networks. So as you can see, there's lots of opportunity for a small startup to get engaged and begin to participate in a small way that can be impactful on an operator's network, and maybe even in concert with a vendor like Nokia.
Great, thank you.
I just may add something, that 6G is coming, according to some people, is going to be included in the next COVID vaccine.
Okay, so then let's discuss vaccines later and all these conspiracy theories then perhaps later on this evening. So let's have a look to, again, our Slovenian colleagues. From your perspective, Rok, what are the trends from your perspective? And as you mentioned, you're also tried to save us before cybersecurity threats. So therefore, it would be great if you could also, not talking about the positive trends, but perhaps also some malicious trends or not the best trends ever.
Let's start first with some fundamentals. 5G, all this technology thing is fine. However, the fundamental thing is we are seeing growth in the traffic in the networks about, depending on the operator, 35, 40, 50% year over year. What it actually means? It means that I have to basically double the capacity in a 2 years' time. And if I cannot do this in an efficient manner, so if I have to buy more equipment and handle more equipment, and if I cannot do with my current staff, I have to have more employees. Now the problem is that we don't see increase in revenue from this transported traffic like 50% year over year. So somebody has to fill this gap. The way to fill this gap is either vendors decrease the prices accordingly, vendors bring us new technology like software-defined networks so that we are more efficient. So we handle the things with the same team. Or we, the operators, do something. As you see the trends, like, Germany has established the tower code, so bring up the physical infrastructure so that we do things together. Now, doing things together with the operators, it's very natural when the business pushes us to do this. So of course, negotiations might take time, but at the end we will reach some agreement. There, however, are regulatory frameworks. So in our case, the regulator started like 30 years ago with the goal that we have the infrastructure competition. Okay, so it means we all in the region had the socialist system. There was one telco operator which was basically clumsy, slow, lagging behind, not doing great services. So the idea was, let's have the infrastructure competition. And this worked very well, actually. So there, the services, the infrastructure was going up, the prices were going down, the people were happy, every year more happier, and that's it. Now, what we have is basically, in case of Slovenia, I'll just illustrate. We have 3 competitive operators on the fiber and on the mobile, basically taking the same shares. So you can see our networks are like 30% full. Okay, so it's not really. I mean, it's not really utilized to the last bit. What we clearly see is that what we need is the service competition, actually. So if I illustrate this, for centuries we basically have service competition in the transport. State is building what? Roads, ports, okay, airports, railways, and there is the service competition on this infrastructure. And this works sometimes fine, sometimes not so well. In the telco we have a different approach, and this is a matter of regulator. So what we see is we need to rethink our goal of having infrastructure competition to having a service competition. One thing that basically happened already in the Western Europe in that sense was number portability, which really made this shift one way further. Now, what we are doing in telecom, we realize that we are a mature business. In a mature business, you basically do what? You basically optimize, and you look for new opportunities. Some fan outs, something that you do new. So we recognized several years ago that the cybersecurity will become a hot topic. Okay, so we did it first for ourselves. We set up the Security Operations Center, which doesn't mean just buying a software from a vendor so that we are able to efficiently and effectively monitor like 10,000 signals per second, and then upon few of them per day that are real threats, you put your team to work upon them. But we realize that we have to put the strong team in terms of a cybersecurity together and offer this as a service to other companies. So we are, I think, a leading provider. We have a great cybersecurity operations center in the region, working 24/7, staffed with top experts that are monitoring. So they're monitoring the systems for our customers. They are responding to the threats, and they're also field deployed when the things go rough. One thing that is important and is very, very good practice is the companies in Slovenia are very much part of the local cybersecurity governmental organization, which is called CICERT. On the European level, that would be ENISA or something like that. Yeah. So when cyber security attack happens to you, it's kind of, you are embarrassed, you got red-handed or without pants. So you do not tell the world you were hacked because this breaches the trust. However, we have established a way of trust within this governmental community that whoever is breached, is hacked, reports immediately to the CSERT organization. They took care that the vector of attack is announced immediately to everyone. So that's number one. So that there has been attack. What is the vector of the attack, and what are the remedies? So what you should do immediately. And this goes very fast. This goes like in, from the report to the announcement, it's like 15, 20 minutes, something like that, when they have the remedies. So we are very proactive. And then within this community, the governmental organization is actually mediating who is helping whom to maintain this level of the trust. So far, it never got out, okay, we know who was hacked, but it never got out. What was the damage? What was broken? What was the reputation? So the trust basically still remains. I find it is really, really of utmost importance. So the cybersecurity, if you want to, my way of saying, of looking at the thing is, if you want to do something at the cybersecurity, it's not enough that you buy I will not mention a specific software and make a advertisement, that you buy a software and you have like 2-3 people within, configuring that software. You have to have a service that is 24/7 available, and it's basically protecting you.
Great, thank you, Rok. Indeed, cybersecurity is a real threat. If you want to follow a little bit more the discussion, you should have also a look on some pages of different operators. A lot of operators are really transparent about the developments. For example, I can tell it from my company, Deutsche Telekom is providing a site with the name www.sicherheitstacho.eu. I don't know if we have an English page. I'm sure we have, but unfortunately I cannot remind the URL. But have a look on security, cybersecurity, Google cybersecurity and telecom, and for sure you will find it, our barometer. And it's really amazing because you can see the card of the world and you can see every attack, not every, but they're showing from where currently some real-time attacks are going. It depends on, a couple of operators are realizing a honeypot system over all of the world to follow and to see and to recognize some models of attacking and such things. So I can only recommend, if you're interested in this topic, it becomes more and more important, and for sure it will be also on the political agenda, and on the agenda of the industry it is already. So thank you, Rok, for this insight and giving me the opportunity to have a short advertising for Deutsche Telekom again. But let's come back to Hyperloop. No, not talk about Hyperloop, but Vlora, you're expert on standardization. So therefore, for me, the question is how standardization can help to bring technology to boost.
Yeah, sorry, I pressed the button too early. Yeah, so how standardization can boost the acceleration of the technologies. Actually, the standards are a catalysator of innovation. It sounds weird when I say it, because standards are often associated with something that is static. Once published, you need to follow repeatedly, while innovation is something that is dynamic and exciting. But it is the case. So just if we have heard a lot about the different 3GPP advancements from 1G up to 5G and soon probably 6G. So the fact that we can use our phones everywhere in the world is thanks to the amount of work that has been put by multiple companies around the globe in writing the 3GPP specifications. So this is the key enabler. And what does this mean is that in terms of the technology, it not only provides for interoperability or compatibility with different technologies, it is also an important tool for market leadership. What does that mean is that the companies that and organizations that are active in standardization, they can provide for their own input into the future standards, but they also generally create a critical mass for deployment. So usually, instead of standardizations enable that, instead of having some small fragmented markets, you go to a single regional market, or in case of telecoms, even a global market. So as such, they are a true catalyst of innovation. And also thinking about what would be beneficial as we are here in the Western Balkans, it would be also my recommendation also for the policymakers. We heard today about the cable standard, that there is a more advanced standard already in place, but maybe the requirement from the policymakers were for a lesser standard for cable. So get involved and really be a participator of this global community, because it really enables really understanding and being able to drive according to the, well, in this case, regional needs.
Thank you, Vlora, for this view on the standardization. Thank you. And that was the perfect handover to the next. Give us 15 minutes, and I think it's still in to use, and we should use this 10 minutes, 15 minutes to talk really about the challenges and our request to, you mentioned it also, to the governments and to the decision makers here in the region. And let's ask Eric, from your perspective, what is really the role of the government, or what could be the role of the governments here, and how can they facilitate, accelerate, whatever, help, support the process of digitization?
So I'm going to focus my comments on the region. I was listening to the government people in the session before, and I was very encouraged by the responses I heard. There needs to be ample spectrum resources upon which you can deploy 5G. I believe that's happened. There should be a catalyst to stimulate the demand. It's certainly being talked about, and there is a good set of skills here in Kosovo, certainly, around which you can make something happen. And so I think the government is doing their job. I think now it's just up to the people. Get going. Make something happen yourselves. I'm sure you'll realize the fruit of your labor in short order.
Okay, great. Thank you, Eric, for this view. I think Kujtim would like to add something.
Unfortunately, I missed that last session, but I think the regulator here, anywhere in the region, they are way behind. That includes the service provider as well. And we heard that service providers have issues with this price of equipment, they have issues with not being able to deploy the services around. I'm going to take a couple of examples. Maybe that's going to help the region. I mean, it's not in the region, but it's in the U.S. I live in Chicago, downtown Chicago, middle of the city. I have two providers at home. I have a Comcast. Basically, Comcast bring me coax to home. They say 1 gig access, correct? And then T-Mobile brought me a modem, the SIM card. I get 100 meg access to it, 10 times slower, correct? I get much better service from T-Mobile on 5G. I'm talking about internet home than I get it from Comcast. So now they both are customers. I love them both. That's why I keep both. So what I'm trying to say, there's so many things 5G can bring if operators build it right. From perspective of how much it costs, we have, again, we go back to T-Mobile because T-Mobile build that, be a part of the building the network, correct? They use SDN, they use virtualization, they use different ways how to keep the pricing down. I have T-Mobile phone. I use it all over the world. I pay $35 a month. So it's not really, maybe it's not about how much it costs. It's just how you build it and how you market it outside and what you bring to the 5G. I think it's huge potential for the region to build a real 5G network. It's no cable involved. Keep it in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Kujtim, for this view. Oh, great. I will learn it after the panel to switch the microphone. So I have learned that indeed the lunch break will be somehow at a certain time, but let's use a couple of seconds and minutes then again to close our session then with the views. Vlora, when we will have the first Hyperloop in the region?
Not before 2026. So as we are currently working on a regulatory framework, but I'm hoping 2026 to 2030. And I heard this morning that there are some plans in connecting Pristina to Durrës with the railway. So maybe that is an opportunity for a Hyperloop.
So then let's use the opportunity. I don't know, Agi, whether it would be fine. So in 6 years, we will sit here again in Pristina and discuss what's then with the Hyperloop and the digitization. So in 5 years or in 6 years? We will see. We have to discuss. We have to discuss. But at a certain time, we will sit here and further, and we will continue our discussion. Rok, from your perspective, some closing remarks, some what's important from your perspective on the policy side? You mentioned also these regional things and the cooperation topics, but yet now it's the perfect time to give the regulators and the policymakers some hints, some more hints.
Two things. One I already mentioned, to rethink the strategy of focusing on infrastructure competition, going more toward the service competition. That is one thing. The other thing was actually mentioned several times in previous session in different ways. So there are several points in Western Europe, but one point in Istanbul that needs to be really connected with a high-speed internet. And the problem is very simple and it's very operational. Between those Western Europe and Istanbul points, we do not have really good documented network. What I mean is, if you go out and start digging in Kosovo or in Bosnia or in Montenegro or in Serbia, you will very often cut the cable. Sometimes you will cut the cable that I'm responsible for, sometimes you'll cut the cable of the competition. So what we really need is this infrastructure to be set up in order, because this backbone of the high-speed internet will be needed, I think, very fast. In 2-3 years, two years' time, we will really need this high-speed backbone to be working every day at the top-notch speed.
Thank you, Rok. So, last opportunity, Nives. I know in the preparation meeting we discussed also that you're one of the people which are really working on this summit since the very first beginning. The question would be, we discussed also this, how we can facilitate the discussion between the different stakeholders. Give us a hint, what should we do in the next time?
Okay, thank you, Mark. I'm like Methuselah already on this Western Balkan summits, and I'm glad because I see the development and would like very short underline. Very important is cooperation. I mean, cooperation and really being trusty, being also consequent from the government point of view that they are supporting activities, they are supporting events, because talking about, I learned today also some things what I will, as a lead, I will follow up in my company because definitely makes sense. Therefore, all of us can learn, therefore this cooperation should be really seriously taken and should be really used and in the future be as a practice. Also important is a strategy. Currently in Croatia we are working on 2030 strategy, and I need to say that all stakeholders are engaged. How strategy will look at the end, government will decide, but all of us have a really opportunity to say, look, I have something to say from experience I have, and additionally from an angle I'm looking, because we are different, coming from different areas, different knowledge. We are some of us legal, some of us economists, technicians, and looking to the same point definitely is bringing different conclusions. Makes sense to have this all because they are relevant. Therefore, working on strategy is also very important. And last one, I would like to also underline using money as much as possible makes sense. There is a European gateway funding as well available. I mean, this is 300 billion euro worldwide, globally available. And this region is one of somehow requested, asked to please to come to use this, because I mean, why not? If money is there, this has to be used, and this is given. Only what is important is to have, of course, structure approach, and for this there are experience in countries around you, and I see that, of course, especially Kosovo, I mean, very young population bringing amazing ideas. Therefore, from my point of view, this is extremely good base for a growth.
Thank you, colleagues here on the stage. Thank you for your appearance and for your very great points and aspects. I think from my perspective, but I'm a regulatory nerd, it was really a very enlightening discussion. So thank you to Chicago and to Texas. Thank you to Dank You Well to Rotterdam. And hvala lepo to Ljubljana and to Zagreb. So, and thank you, hvala Mindiritshum, hvala lepo for your appearance here in the audience, and yeah, give those guys an applause.